I am joining you from out at our little cabin in the Amish country of Pennsylvania, where I've been working this week. And yeah, great to have you here. And today we're looking at one of the trickier things to do, something that I know very few people who are able to do well, and something I imagine that we all try to do, but struggle with a great deal along our path of life. And what we're looking at today from John chapter 8, verse 59. And welcome if you're joining us for the first time. Welcome if you're joining us for the 50th time. If you're joining us for the first time, we just go through like one little line of scripture, talk about it a little bit, do a little prayer, a little blessing, etc., and then we have a little conversation thread at the end that takes place on New Church Live's Facebook page. So let's go ahead and look at this. And today's topic is let it go, which is so incredibly hard to do. And we just see a lot of these little hints. It was interesting. I remember way back in the day when I was first ordained, which have been ordained now for 12, 13 years. And it was interesting, you just start to see the Bible very differently reading through it later on in life. And this particular pattern keeps on showing up where people sort of get fed up with Jesus, they get tired of all this stuff, and they see him as an insurrectionist, and then they start to gather stones, etc., or to plot to kill him. And then many times, several times in the New Testament, just has him and then he just disappears. He just moves through the crowd and leaves. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. So let's take a look at this line here. Again, we're at John 8, verse 59. This is after Jesus had told them that he was the I am, which we looked at yesterday. Then they took up stones to throw at him, and Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. So it's just a simple line, and it's repeated, I believe, in the Gospel of John, if I remember right, doing this before. I think it's 3 or 4 times where it's just like he's cornered. It looks like there's going to be a riot. Looks like he's going to be hurt or killed, and it's just he gently passes through. He gently moves on. Wow, what an image of the simple need to just let it go. I imagine, folks, that for all of us, there are those relationships that are really hard for us, and it could be in any number of different venues and formats. And in those relationships, there can be sort of a script that goes along with it. A script of all the wrongs that have been done, a script of all the challenges that have been had. It's a pretty sad script a lot of the time. Now, a lot of the time, those things actually are true. I want to make that clear. I don't think people necessarily always fabricate them, though that could happen too. A lot of time, these are actual real hurts. And how do we like let it go? Like, how do we just move beyond it? I think for a lot of people, their idea of moving beyond it is I'll be able to move beyond it once I convince them of my position. Once they finally say, I'm sorry, I agree, you are totally right. And I just ask you to think back in your life, like how many times has that happened? Not a whole lot. It hasn't happened a whole lot with someone coming to us with that, and it probably hasn't happened a lot with us going to other people with that either, where we're like, "Yep, you're right. I was wrong the whole time. My apologies." It just doesn't seem all the time that necessarily works. And why is that? Well, I think a lot of it is that we just all see the world so differently. Um, Many times working with people as a pastor, you really have 2 scripts going on. You have 2 distinctive records, and oftentimes, if we were to look at them separately, you wouldn't even know that they were dealing with the same relationship. And I don't think that's necessarily because people are evil or ill-willed or anything like that. I think it's just because we just see the world as we see it. And certain things can trigger us, and then when we're triggered, we latch onto that one thing and we hold on to it with all our might, and it's really hard to let go of. How do we do that then? Well, then how do we let go? I think Jesus is saying, there is a time to just let go. Just that simple. Just let it go. Just move on. Jesus doesn't try here to argue with the crowd. He doesn't try to tell another story. He definitely doesn't pick up a stone in self-defense. He just moves on, which we see many, many times in the New Testament. He just moves on. He just keeps on moving. That, boy, is that important. I think that moving on, we can do it in any number of ways, some of which are healthy, some of which are not. We can do it as a weaponized moving on of just like, well, I'm moving on, and we can use that as a way to punish the other person. That's probably not a great orientation to have. We can also do it out of apathy, just like, who cares, moving on. That also, be careful with that. Like I was telling someone last week, and I really do believe this. Apathy is probably the primary enemy. If I had a choice between working with someone who was really angry or somebody who's really apathetic, I'll take anger any day because anger means there's an energy and a love underneath it, and our job is to work with that, right? So we can't come at it out of sort of, well, I'm just going to weaponize this leaving, and we can't come to it either from just apathy, like, who cares? We have to be able to let it go out of love. I want to say that again. We have to be able to let it go out of love. It's just the loving response to do, because we're not going to convince them anymore. It's not a matter of more information. It's not a matter of more volume. That's key. Not a matter of more information, not a matter of more volume. If they already truly, I had a counselor tell me this once, like if they already really understand where you're coming from, if they could articulate that, you've done what you can do, and there's no use in just constantly rehashing your position again and again. There is a time just to move on, and it has to be done from love. When it's from love, folks, you'll know it, right? You'll know it, because it won't be based, when we really come from a loving place, it's not based on their reaction. We're not doing it to kind of see what are they going to do now. uh because I think those other two, actually, in a weird way, it's trying to let it go, but it's really trying to let it go to see if you get a reaction out of them in letting it go. And this is, no, just, I'm just letting it go. I love you, got your position, got it, and we're moving on. I think that there is something to that. And again, even that phrase, like, and we're moving on, you want to be careful using that, because that can be so readily weaponized. It may be something where you just keep on moving. I think so many times in life, right? We have crisis situations that move into chronic situations. The crisis happens, whatever it is, and then we're just in this sort of this chronic malaise that just keeps on repeating itself. And that's what we want to, again, we're in that chronic phase. We just want to understand there's some problems that just aren't going to get solved, aren't going to change, at least in this life or in the immediate future. Maybe they do down the road, and maybe they don't. It doesn't matter, because that's not our job. Our job is to come from love. And sometimes coming from love means I'm just going to let it go and just move on with life, just with a simple got it. So that's an idea for today. And I want to say, like, there is nothing easy about that. So yeah, I mean, that's probably worth its own small group there, figuring out. And we're gonna be pulling some of that into our a series in January. Started working on forgiveness, because it's key to forgiveness, to think through all this stuff. So that's my thought for today, friends, and hope that gives you a little help today, and it's somewhere in there. And what we're going to do now is now we're going to do a little meditation, followed by prayer, followed by a blessing. And then if you want to leave a comment, please leave it on New Church Live's Facebook page, and I'll go and read it there, because we are broadcasting to a number of different sites, and I have time to look at one, and that's the one we're going to look at. So with that, friends, let's all get a big breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and bring you peace, bring you home. Amen. All right, friends, let's give a little shout out here to the folks who are joining us today. Again, if you want to leave a comment, you can go ahead and leave it on our Facebook page, New Church Live's Facebook page. And it takes a second for it to scroll up here. What we found is that I can get the comments, but I can only get them after we have started our meeting here. So if you want to leave a comment, please feel free. We got a lot of comments today. All right. All right. Kim writes, morning from the Windy City, Chicago. We had a great small group last night talking about Chicago, and I love Chicago. And I love Tennessee. So, Harry, thank you. And good morning from Tennessee. Oh man, let it go, let it go, let it go. Oh, Gene, it's so yeah. It's easier to sing it than it is to do it. I say that with a smile. Yeah, Kim, we'll definitely keep us in your thoughts for wedding week. Yep, will do. Marcus, let go with palms facing upward. That was such a beautiful part, Marcus. It's interesting, right? A little thing is that might be the most symbolic part of taking communion, as our palms are up, for receiving life. Uh, Hi, yesterday I told Sue writes, hi, yesterday I told someone let it go, and she nastily said I can't. Moving on is so hard. It's so true. And the hard part is, guys, and I do this, can become that kind of suffering can become our identity. Like, oh my goodness, like be careful with that. Terry, thank you for the heart there. Mary writes, Jesus' word, Father, forgive them for they don't know what to do. Ring through my head when I'm pulled to not being able to move on. And Mary, that's beautifully said there. It's just such a key line. Like there are a number of lines like that, right? And that may be one of the 5 key lines of the Bible around forgiveness. Brandon, good morning to you. Daryl says, correct. That is not easy to do. I find myself between that and the obligation to do something, right? And it is interesting, right? Because it doesn't mean you swallow your whistle. It means you do have something to share, and our job is to share it. Our job is just not to weaponize it. And that is not easy to do at all. Quick hello to Sherry there and Lynn, Ashley, and good morning to you and your daughter there. Uh, Donna writes, good morning from Hatboro. Please lift me in prayer. I need peace in my heart. Donna, we absolutely will. We'll keep you in our prayers today, and thank you for joining us. All right, folks. Any other comments? I'll be getting to them as soon as I can, and just wishing you folks all the best. What a great, wonderful little group of people that joins us here. Oh, here's one last one from Linda. Linda, identity. That's so true. We need to be careful. When I find it hard to forgive, I ask God to forgive me until I'm able to do it. Yeah, that's right. Like it's so true. I was working with one family, had gone through a really, really hard circumstance, and they could not forgive the person who had perpetrated this, and for very legitimate reasons. And they were asking about forgiveness. They said, maybe you can't forgive right now. Maybe that has to be totally God's work at this particular moment in time, which is something to think about. So, anyhow, lots to think about, folks. Thank you very much. Have a great Wednesday. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.